Okay, I want to introduce my friends, Denry White and Kelly Jeanphilippe. And I met both of these guys in seminary. Denry, I met first, and we had a lot of classes together, and we were pretty much in the same class. And then Kelly came on board to the seminary, and we worked together at Living Word Fellowship with Pastor Peter On. Some of you might know him. And it was really, really good just working together with these guys and getting to know them. And I've been blessed to the fact that I've been able to have a conversation with these guys. One of the reasons for this presentation, this conversation really, is to get these guys' stories out so that we are not ignorant anymore to what is happening on a daily basis. And so, it's such a blessing that Denry, you're here. Thank you so much for being here. Kelly, Jeanphilippe, thank you so much for being here. Just to give you guys a little bit of background for these guys, Pastor Denry, he is a pastor in the Lake Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, and that's in the Midwest. And he's pastoring two churches, Battle Creek Berean and Kalamazoo Trinity Temple, right? And Kelly is a chaplain at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. So once again, I want to thank you guys both for being here and allowing us to have this very, very important conversation of something that we don't think we struggle with, and we don't, honestly, we don't on an everyday basis, but I know you guys do. So my prayer is for this conversation is to uplift your stories, is to uplift you guys, share your perspectives and your insight, and educate myself and all those that are watching about the systemic pandemic of evil and racism and injustice that does affect everyone. So I want to start off this conversation, and we'll start off with you, Denry. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and just kind of give us some background to you, and then we'll go to you, Kelly.
Well, first of all, Kevin, thank you for allowing Kelly and I to, to talk with your people, talk with the world about things that we have been dealing with, before we were born. And we'll find out after this conversation. My goal is that you'll find out that it's not just a black thing, it's not just a white thing, but it's a humanity thing, a human thing, that we have this problem of racism and all these isms. And I just want to say, though, also, you and I started pastoring around the same time, Kevin. My hair is turning gray, but you are looking younger and younger as you pastor. I don't know what they have in California, but over here at Lake Region, I don't know. We must be work a little bit. I don't know. So thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me and Kelly here, man, to bless your people. Oh, good question. Good question. I don't know if we have time, so you just cut me off when you are ready. I was originally born in the beautiful island of Jamaica, West Indies. I came to America, to Harlem, New York, when I was 5 years old. So most of my life, I'm one of those people that, yes, we were born in a different country, but because we were nurtured in a certain environment, we claim that environment. So I'm kind of like a dual citizen, if you want to call it that, of Jamaica and America. In Harlem, New York, as I came to matriculate to the ages, I saw racism, or I saw that I was different in different levels. And just give me real quick, and I'll spread it throughout the broadcast. But I saw it differently. The first time in high school, there was this Caucasian young ladies that were interested in me. And because of all the stuff I heard on television, pertaining to blacks, men being caught with white young girls, and the girls saying that it was rape and stuff, Kelly and Kevin, I literally would shun them. Like, they would just want to be friends probably, but I didn't want anything. So I had that fear first. The anger came later on, and we'll talk about that. But my first thing was fear. Listening to media, listening to the environment. So when I saw white people, I was standoffish. I wanted nothing really to do with them because I didn't want to go to jail, And so that was my first. And then later on, just in life, when I went to the South, that's when I realized that because I was an African American, and this is another discussion, that I was not really black. I don't, if you understand that, and we'll explain that as we go along. Because I was an African American, to the African Americans, this is in the South, I was not considered really black. And there's more to that. There's language that, more, and like I said, we'll just go on through it throughout the broadcast. But that was my story. That's just a nutshell, really a nutshell. I've marched. This is not my first time protesting. I've been in marches with, yes, you know, Al Sharpton when we were in New York City. I've marched with him. I've been marched at Oakwood University. So I've been involved, and to see it still going on, Kevin and Kelly and those listening, is sickening. It's sickening. It reminds me of Psalms 13, I think it is Psalms 13, where David starts the conversation, how long, Lord?
Mm.
How long? And I actually preached that sermon this past Sabbath. How long? Like, how much longer, Lord, are we going to suffer these affliction before people's eyes open up and realize what they're doing to us? And that this is not just only us, our problem, but this is a human problem.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
So I was, like Denry, also born outside of the United States. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, to Haitian parents.
Wow.
So while Denry is a dual citizen, I guess I'm like a triple citizen of sorts. My entire family is from Haiti. And so growing up, I am Haitian by culture, Venezuelan by birth, and I lived in Venezuela for about 5 years. So the first 10 years of my life were split between Venezuela and Haiti. So I came to the United States when I was 10. And similarly to Denry, my formal education, if you will, has been here in the United States. So since the 5th grade, all the way to high school, to junior high school, college, graduate school at Andrews. Now my professional career has all been here. So my way of thinking is a combination of American with a lot of Haitian backways and just a little bit of that Hispanic sazon.
Nice.
So that's what that's my makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I was black until I came to the United States of America.
Oh.
Good point.
Wow. So living in Venezuela, the little bit that I remember in Haiti, I didn't know that there was such a thing as you're black, you're white, you're this, you're that, until I came to America. So often I just live my life going back to that notion. So similar, like to kind of explain what I'm trying to say is, there are people who say, well, I don't see color. Sure, whatever. What I'm saying is, I don't let how you look or where you're from dictate whether or not I see you as a human being. So when I was in college, I was the guy who, knew people from across the spectrum. So black, white, Asian, African, Hispanic, you name it. Like, I'm sitting at the table with everybody, to the point that one of the clubs that I belonged to on campus, so I went to a school called Middlebury College. It's in Middlebury, Vermont, one of the whitest places that I've ever been to. And one of the clubs on campus, one of the African-American clubs on campus that I belonged to, they took me out of their group, out of the club, out of their emailing list, because I wasn't, ready for this one, Denry?
Yeah.
Black enough. Because I just hung out with everybody. And I'm not saying that they didn't hang out with everybody, but their flavor of blackness was not what my flavor of blackness was, whatever that means. I was not black according to that standard because I'm not African American. I am Haitian American. I am Venezuelan American. I am Haitian Venezuelan American. So that's been interesting.
It's funny, Kelly said that because it was the opposite for me in New York. Not until I went to the South was I declassified as not being black. When we were in New York, no matter where you were from, because you're dark skinned, we were black. Honestly, like I had my friends, I had mixed variety of friends from different backgrounds, West Indian, African friends, African American friends. So we were in it together because when we used to get pulled over by cops, Kelly, they didn't ask whether you're West Indian. Are you West Indian? Oh,
Right.
you get a pass because you're West Indian. Oh, you look like you're African. You know what? Go ahead. You can go ahead. But you African American, you stay right here. Right? No,
Right.
we all were in the same boat. And so what blew my mind, guys, was when I went to the South. Now, here I am, raised in New York City, in Harlem, New York, of all the places, and I leave and I go to the South, Alabama. We're talking about Alabama, Kevin. You're going to have another show for that, right? Alabama. And when I get there, it's Oakwood University. It's the mecca of, when we say Black Adventism, Kevin, it means this is where basically blacks go. Okay, just like a Mecca, you have to do a pilgrimage there. This was the root for Black Adventism. And you go there, we get there, and we're participating, and there's other blacks there. But when I interviewed, it was when I was getting interviewed, Kelly, to be a pastor, which is the sad part about us. This is why I said, Kevin, if you're really serious about it, you may have to do a couple shows. That's when we were told, those of us who are from another soil, that you're not black enough.
Wow.
And you're talking about somebody who's gotten beat down in New York. Somebody's got thrown on the ground, slammed with their face on glass by cops because I'm dark skinned. And then you go now to your own people, right? And they tell you you're not black enough. So when Kelly says that, Kevin, that you're not black enough, maybe we need to define that for him, Kelly. What does blackness means? And let me just real quick, Kevin, it means basically you weren't part of the original struggle from slavery all the way through. Now, keep in mind now, West Indies, we had slavery in Jamaica. I think they had it in Venezuela. I mean, of course they had it in Haiti, but I'm sure they had it in South America. But because you weren't part of the lineage of the struggle, that's the key word, Kevin, the struggle from African-American soil slavery, then you're truly not black.
There was a transition from being categorized as all of a sudden you are black, because from the places that you guys originally came from, you weren't. That's who you are. This was normal, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have a category, black. But then even within your category, from other African American black people, you're even categorized again. How does that affect you? I can see that there's a little resentment. I can see a little confusion from you both, but exactly, kind of just share with me, how has that affected you?
I have fun with it. A lot of times when I am filling out a form, for instance, and it asks for race, and I'm like, I want to be Alaskan today. So I'll put Alaskan, or I think I've even put Caucasian at some point, or whatever the case is. Because, like Denry says, when someone else who is not dark skinned looks at me, they're not going to think, "Oh, here comes a Haitian American." Oh, here comes here comes a black guy. Period. Like, end of story. So the little subcategories within, blackness itself and all of that stuff is like, cool, you can do that, whatever. At the end of the day, if racist dude comes, kicks down this door, you could be like, he's not gonna say, well, you're the real black guy, but you.
Exactly.
Nah, it's all the same. It's all the same. So it took a while for me interestingly, it took a while for me to stop classifying myself differently
Mm.
because I wanted to highlight the fact that I was not African American. I wanted to highlight that fact.
Mm.
So whenever someone would say, well, black people X, Y, and Z, I felt some type of way about that because I'm like, well, I'm not the North American black. My family's from Haiti. So you're not talking about my blackness. You're talking about North American blackness. And it's not until maybe about 10 years ago or so that I start to realize, Kel, nobody cares
Mm. Wow.
where you're from,
Mm.
bro. Just stop trying to make that distinction.
Yeah.
Whether you Haitian, whether you Jamaican, whether you're Trinidadian, whether you this, whether you that, this is the only thing that people see. Nobody's
Wow.
stopping you to asking for questions and demographics and all of that stuff. So while in my own way, I was trying to exclude myself from the struggle, it followed me wherever I went. I
Mm.
remember this one time I was chilling. Well, I wasn't chilling. I was at a Macy's with my mom and my cousin. And my mom was trying on something in the dressing room. And my cousin and I were holding on to the bags that my mom gave us so that she can go to the dressing room and try on the item.
Hey.
I must have been about, I was in high school then. So I was definitely around like 16, 17, 18. And I'm chilling in the Macy's. Me and my cousin, we're just standing there by the waiting room, minding our own business, busting it up, just, waiting for my mom to try her thing and come out. One of the attendees was just walking back and forth, fixing things that didn't necessarily need to be fixed.
Yes.
But, dude, oblivious to the fact, because I know I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yes.
I know I'm not a criminal. I know I'm not a suspect of any crime. I know I'm not any of that stuff. I'm just waiting for my mom to come out this dressing room so we can get going. And at one point, I noticed that she just kept walking back and forth in front of us, and she kept looking at us. So, mind you, back then, 16, 17, 18, Denry, you can attest to this, the style was different. Nobody was wearing skinny jeans back then. We were baggy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
baggy.
So we're dressed appropriately to the times. And this woman, this white lady, she must have been about mid 40s, early 50s, mid 40s to mid 50s, I'll say. She mustered up the energy to walk directly to us. And very matter-of-factly just said, if I were you guys, I'd be very careful. Because right now, every camera in this store is pointed at you.
Say it.
Wow. Wow.
And walked away.
Wow.
Yeah.
My cousin and I were like, huh?
Yeah.
We just standing here. We were just standing there, talking to each other. We weren't picking out clothes to try them on. We weren't looking around the store to see what we want. We were having a conversation, he and I, while my mom is in the dressing room, just standing there. And this woman came and she delivered this message. So, things like that was just like, Kel, forget about it, bro. Whether you're Haitian, whether you're Jamaican, whether you whatever, here in North America, your crime is your skin.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Oh, man.
End of story.
End of story. End of
Oh,
story. Let me jump on that
please,
real
please, Denry, go ahead.
quick, Kevin. I mean, Kelly, it's like you and I live in the same world. And Kevin, you would see if you add 10 more black people on here, if you get African Americans and others, legitimate African Americans, if you want to say that, on here, you would hear it would sound like a redundant story because that's what we live daily. Kevin, we're
It's
talking
like
about
we're reading from the same script.
Wow.
exactly. We're talking about even still now, Kevin. Kevin, the situation that occurred in Central Park a couple weeks ago, right, was the same thing
Mm-hmm.
Kelly just talked about. I don't know if you recall the situation. The lady is walking her dog in an area she's not supposed to have her dog unleashed, right? So she's breaking the law. This black man, he's bird watching, right? He's minding his own business, doing what as a good citizen is supposed to do. She interferes. He asks her please to do what she gets upset, and what she does,
Calls the
she
police.
calls 911.
Yeah.
And how does she identify intensely? An African American male. He's threatening me, and you see the video, and the guy literally just stood still. He didn't say nothing the whole time because it had to be shown. And I think God is allowing cell phones now so people's eyes can be open, especially what just happened with Floyd last week.
Yeah.
People's eyes are open now to see the hatred, the systematic racism, the
Yes.
embedded. It's in your DNA racism. And
Mm.
and like the question that you posed, Kevin, you said amongst us, it is so bad. This is why I said it's not just a black history. Yes, we're getting the plague of it. No, let's not desensitize that and calm that down, Kelly. Like, oh, whatever. No, we are getting the plague of this.
Mm.
In every country, you research it, the darker skinned people get the boot.
Mm.
They get treated wrong. They get mistreated. From Asians to Europeans to even in Africa. Kevin, there is a group of people, we have the problem in Jamaica too. Kelly, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess they have it here in America, but we have it in Jamaica and we have it in Africa. And I've watched documentaries on this where young ladies, because they're not light skinned, Kevin, because they're not light skinned black, they bleach their skin. Why? Because light-skinned people in our cultures get more opportunity. They're more welcome. The darker you are, the more fearful you are. So could you imagine when when Kelly was saying he was standing at the store, minding his own business with his cousin, waiting on his mother, being a good boy, not doing anything wrong. And look how he's treated. Why? Because he's dark-skinned black. And so a lot of our people, Kevin, are trying to change their skin color. There's documentary. If you go to YouTube and type in bleaching, it's called bleaching in Jamaica or bleaching in Africa, you will see they'll use chemical peels that are toxic just to get the melanin off of their skin, the darkness, so that they can feel welcome in an environment. Not even just amongst whites and others who are not black, but even amongst their own self, their own people. So what Kelly is saying, like, I know what Kelly was saying. It happened to me so many times. Unfortunately, Kevin, I got to say, when we go to Asian stores that are run by Asians, right? When we go to stores that are run by Asians, especially the beauty stores, Kelly, you can you see him nodding his head, Kevin, because it's rehearsing in his head. This has happened to him too. The same thing. As soon as a European person, a white person can walk in there, nobody, hey, how you doing, sir? He gets the Mr., the Mrs., she get all that. We walk in the store, it's
We
like
get the buddy treatment.
FBI, CIA. When you turn to the left, all of a sudden, this lady or this person is walking that way. You turn to the right, they're walking that way. And how they ask you, can I help you? But you heard how they were saying to the white person or the Hispanic person, whatever, hey, good day, how are you, ma'am, sir? To us, can I help you? What do you want? And because we're already hypersensitive, because think about it, Kevin, let me put it to you this way. This is one of the best analogies I think I can provide you. Imagine a spouse that's been in domestic, well, a girl that's dated two guys, and both guys beat her up, like beat her to a pulp. The second guy, and she's like, I'm never gonna let this happen again. She falls in love with this guy, and she gets married. She's gonna get married now. So this is the third guy, and he insults her. He brings her down. He may not physically hit her, but he brings her down. They divorce, but now this guy that loves her, that genuinely cares and loves her, comes down. Do you think she's gonna be with open arms? They're like, oh, I've finally found my true love. No, because she's been traumatized by the first three, and you're talking about trauma. There's a book out there, I forgot the author's name. There's a book out there about the post-traumatic stress that we as Black people have from slavery, Kevin. We're not even talking about civil rights, Kelly, from slavery still. So when you ask the question, Kevin, about it being amongst us, these things were embedded from slavery and in tribalism in Africa. So there's this long lineage of separation and hatred, hating yourself. And so now when your person says, I'm Black, identify being Black is being identified with the negative of your struggle, the pain that we've gone through. So if you went to private school, for example, Kelly, all your life, if you went to Ivy League and you have both parents, okay, that's a no-no. You cannot be Black, Kevin, if you have both parents living in your household. Like both parents, and they're involved in your school. You're technically not Black. You're African American, or there's another term, but you're not Black. Black also is connected to, Kevin, with ghetto in certain areas. Like I said, the dialect is different, depends on where you are. So there has to be, you have to have struggled, you have to have suffered, you have to have been going through the wrenches. And so even in us, there's the classism, there's the ism, the ethnic. I mean, I can go on and on, but I just want to give you just a bird's eye view, Kevin, that this thing is serious, man. It's ongoing serious.
You guys experience this almost regularly, if not every day.
Every day.
And the crazy thing is, one, you're not doing anything. Two, you're not being rude. And three, when altercations, when things happen, you are compliant. But even when you're compliant, there is such a picture or view or image of, whether it is your, one, it is your skin already. Two, it is the systemic ideology that Black people are ghetto, Black people are bad, they're gonna steal, all of these things. All of those things are already registered in a person's mind, judging you, and you've done nothing. And I want to transition into this. This is kind of the idea that people miss when they say all lives matter. Am I right? I want you guys to talk about that, because I was in that boat. I heard, when I first heard Black Lives Matter, it's like, well, what are you guys talking about? All lives matter. All lives matter are important. And it's not until I started to understand some of this dynamic. Would you guys mind, kind of talking to that?
Kevin, sometimes you just have to laugh, because there is pain there, but even Solomon says laughter is medicine. So even when let me share this one real quick, Kevin, real quick. One of the reasons why Blacks joke a lot and laugh a lot is because the pain.
Wow.
The pain, like, even Kevin Hart, I don't mean to mention this thing on your show, but one of his first comedy, Kevin, Kelly, this is your boy from Philadelphia, was Laugh at My Pain. And some of the other ones all had to deal with his pain, because for us, you lash out, you're too angry. So for us, we laugh about it, we joke at each other, and it bonds us closer, where other people outside are looking like, man, they're just bringing each other down. No, we're not bringing each other down. It's actually a healing it's therapy for us. So I see Kelly and we just start goofing. We haven't seen each other for years, It's because it's just therapy for us. It helps, man. We in the struggle together. All right, I just wanted to mention that. So when you see blacks laughing and joking around, no matter what's going on in their life, one thing we can say, we are just gonna enjoy this ride. All right. So Black Lives Matter. This started with about about 5, 6 years ago, Kevin,
About 5, 6.
Kelly, when Trayvon Martin was killed by Zigerman, right? And then Eric,
Mike
what's
Brown. There was
guy,
Trayvon. There was Eric Gardner. There was
Eric
Mike
Garner
Brown.
the guy in Ferguson was shot. No, all hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah, Michael Brown.
Yeah, Michael Brown. And the statement was simply this: Black Lives Matter. We're trying to get the message out to let you guys know, because we were the ones dying. We're the ones being executed. And we were the ones who were not even going to a trial or a jury or even a lawyer. We're being executed and judged on the street and treated as animals, like somebody's hunting us. You know, we're being shot at and killed for obeying in some cases. And police and even American citizens, Caucasian American citizens, were just getting off scotch-free, no consequences, not as if we didn't matter. And so the slogan came, Black Lives Matter, not to diminish anyone else's. And that is the anger, Kelly, that always just irritates me and upsets me as a black man. Anything we do, Kevin, anything we do, people have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. If we stand up for our rights, we are aggressive. If we take a knee, peaceful protest, oh, we're disrespecting the flag. If we sit down on the bus, oh, we're disobedient. If we make the fist at the Olympics, remember the Olympics, Kelly? Oh, we should never do that. We've always been told to stay in our place. And so now that's why you have the other group, Kevin, that just don't care. Mm. And they're the extremists. And they just don't care. They're like, listen, you're not going to put us in no box. You're not going to tell us what to do. You don't care about us anyway. And so those are the extremists far, far, far side. But when I'm talking about the slogan, Black Lives Matter, all it's simply saying is it's a message to let you know, hey, we matter too. So when people came in with the all lives matter, once again, Kelly, it was like, we don't matter. They try to make us feel guilty for telling the truth, that we're being shot and executed in public, and people just go on with their life, no cares. But these families are now living in mourning and pain because they lost a loved one. Yeah. So when we say Black Lives Matter, it's not that your life doesn't matter. It's not a Spanish life, blue lives don't matter. And Kelly, one of the things that was upsetting was when they started putting blue lives matter. You know, for Kevin, if you don't understand, blue life, that's police. Mm. And it was like, hello, we're trying to tell you that we're being treated like we don't matter. We're not but we've been treated as if we don't matter. And we're trying to tell you to help us. And you're going to turn around and say blue life matter, all life matter. You're not the only one that matters. You see, so it's just the American standard that's always been from day one. Anytime blacks say something, do something, we stand up for our rights. We're guilty, like Kelly says, for our skin. It's a crime to be black. And don't let us open our mouth. Don't let us fend for our rights. Don't let us peacefully protest. Everything we do in their eyes is wrong.
Wow. I want to take you on a thought exercise, Kev. Okay, so just follow along with me here. Okay. If you commit a crime and you get arrested, what is your expectation of what will happen to you?
Judge, jury, trial. They will take the evidence. They'll get everything done, and then a jury will give the sentence, and I either go to jail or I'm set free. So that's ultimately my expectation.
Known as due process.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. So in the case of Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter,
Okay.
when someone says All Lives Matter as a response to Black Lives Matter, what that person is saying is that every life that is not encased by a dark skin is important, but yours, who is encased by black skin, is not important because I don't even see you as a person.
Wow.
So at least this is how I hear it and I think about it, and not just thinking about it, but how it is played out. If all lives mattered, it shouldn't bother you when I say Black Lives Matter.
Mm. Wow.
Am I not also a life?
Mm.
But if I'm saying Black Lives Matter, it's because there is something outside of me that is saying that my blackness in my life does not.
Wow.
So every individual who does say, whether sincerely or any other way, all lives matter, you're lying because you don't think so. And here's the reason why I say that. If someone does something bad, if someone commits a crime, that person deserves to be punished.
Mm-hmm.
Due process, we just spoke about it. The problem is when a black person does something, whether that person was guilty of that act. So let's take the case of Mr. Floyd, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that he did have a counterfeit 20,
Okay.
okay? And he wanted to commit fraud in that way by buying something with a counterfeit 20. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the letter of the law is, but that clearly is something that you should not do. So I think in the least possible way, that's a crime, okay? So let's call, for the purpose of this example, Mr. Floyd a criminal if he indeed had this counterfeit 20 that he was trying to use to buy a sandwich, whatever it is he was trying to buy, okay? Cool. So this citizen has now committed a crime, and the store owner decides to call the police. Cool. The police ought to come, assess the situation. If there's enough evidence to warrant that Mr. Floyd gets arrested, they will put him in handcuffs, stick him in the back of the patrol car, take him to the precinct, get him booked in jail, let due process take place. But he ends up dead, murdered by a police officer. Now, the story that spins out is, well, when he died, he was high on something. He had this in his system.
Yep.
Well, did you know that he had a criminal record? Well, did you know that in the case of, if I remember Trayvon Martin correctly, in the case of Trayvon Martin, he had weed in his book bag. In the case of Michael Brown, well, you know, they showed Facebook pictures, you know, some of his pictures of smoking and this and that. And so these are the things that justify for those who say all lives matter, the execution of this black life. Look how he was living anyway. He was a drug addict, even though the dude was probably smoking some weed, or maybe not smoking some weed. He had a criminal record. Maybe it was like a petty offense. Maybe it was a DUI. He got stuck in jail for one night and boom, he has a criminal record. Whatever extensive the record is, and even if that person was a hardcore drug addict, what is being said is that he got murdered, she got murdered, because we can't ignore the fact that our Black women are also getting executed.
Yes,
Yeah.
They're just not getting the type of attention that Black men are getting. So I want to put that out there too. Sandra Bland should have still been here. She dead because she didn't signal a lane change. So let's not get that twisted. I can't think of her name right now. The young lady who was in her apartment. This
Breonna
happened
Taylor?
what, a couple of weeks ago? No, this happened a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
And Brenda or Brianna, I can't think of her name right now.
Brianna.
Breonna Taylor.
Oh, that's what you said. Sorry. Yeah. And she was in her apartment
Yeah.
and she gets executed for being in her apartment. So what's happening is every time something like this happens, the first thing that comes out in the media, drug problems, broken home issues, criminal records. You go to the white side, a white dude that shoots up a school and kills one person, two people, a handful of people, whatever.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes out in the media, oh, he had mental issues.
Always.
He had he was such a straight A student. He was an honor roll student. Hey yo, I'm trying to see the pictures of my man when he was doing some wild stuff. But no, the wild things are reserved for.
Wow. Wow.
But the positive, mushy, I can't believe that our society lost someone that was just so promising for the future. Whiteness. Blackness is, this person, in many of these cases, this police officer or this neighborhood watch man or these people who took it upon themselves to make sure that nobody else will break into their neighborhood in Ahmaud Arbery's case, they did us a favor by getting rid of this trash. Because this trash smoked and had a criminal record. So all lives matter that are not Black should be the full statement.
Wow. Wow.
You can't say all lives matter, but when that person, when I get shot and killed, when I get my carotid artery pressed on, even long after I'm dead, when I have my hoodie on and I get executed, when I'm out for a jog and I get executed, when I fail to signal a change lane and I get executed, or when I'm just chilling in my apartment, minding my own business, and I get executed, you can't say that all lives matter if you're not saddened by the fact that I didn't even get, in a lot of those cases, the chance for due process. So when people say Black Lives Matter, we're not talking about if Denry did something wrong that he shouldn't get the full weight of the law, deserving of the punishment that he committed. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we can't even get to that because
Wow.
the powers that be take it upon themselves to be both executioner and judge.
Wow. Wow.
Just based on the color of my skin. So you mean to tell me Michael Brown wasn't doing well in a lot of his classes? So you mean to tell me that Trayvon Martin didn't have any promise? He didn't aspire to be anything in life, and all he did day and night, the moment he woke up, was smoke weed or whatever else people accused him of doing? So you mean to tell me that Mr. Floyd was not an influential person in his family, in his community, in any way, shape, or form. And whether or not, according to both autopsies, he did have something in his system. And just because of that, then he was deserving of the treatment that he got. But yet,
Wow.
people want to talk about no one is perfect. Yo, get at somebody who is being accused of something. Let one of these All Lives Matter people who gets caught doing something and people come down on their neck talking about why are you doing this? One of the first things they will say is, I'm human. Nobody's perfect. But nobody's perfect never applies to a situation where gets
Wow.
executed.
Wow. That's that is that's heavy. Like I
Are you
I
sure you were ready for this, Kevin?
huh?
Are you sure you were ready for this?
No, I'm not. And it saddens me deeply to hear that. And it it literally blows my mind the amount of prejudice. I knew there was. You know, I and I think most people are in my boat to say, I know there's prejudice. I know there's racism, but it doesn't click in our minds to understand just how much there is when it comes to the color of your skin, when it comes to this this preconceived notion of what black people are here in America.
Real quick. So we're in this coronavirus pandemic, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, it was celebrities coming out saying they got it. A lot of people from Italy, China, then the U.S. got 3. Then we went all the way to 3,000, and now we're at I think almost what two was it 3 million, something like that. Anyway, but the majority of this now has become now in black communities. And driving around in my communities, and especially in what most people call the hood or whatever you want to call it, these people, my people, are not wearing masks. They're not. They're socializing. They're getting together. And my wife and I were having a conversation. We're listening. The reason why the increase is because our people are just not caring, not wearing the mask, not the stuff like that. And so my wife and I were talking. We're like, why? Why would they wear the mask, Kevin? Why would they wear the mask, Kelly? 2 reasons. Why would they not care about this? It's just another thing on the checklist that's coming at them. Okay, Corona, so what? I got cops coming at me. I got gangbangers coming at me. I got drug dealers coming at me. I got baby mothers coming at me. I got this coming. I got the government coming at me. I got when I go to the store, I'm being identified as a crime because of my skin color. I got all these things covering me. What is Corona? What is Corona? So, and then the other thing is, think about it. If I'm already a criminal because of this, Kevin, then imagine when I put a mask on. Now you can't see my face. If I'm already a criminal because of this, and when I got a dark skin mask on, Kelly,
Hey,
you know what I'm
listen,
saying?
man.
So I'm
Listen,
already paranoid for my life already. It's already a lose-lose situation. I'm speaking in general. Of course, those got Christ, those got faith or whatever. But lose-lose situation for the average. Look, why do my wife works in Benton Harbor, and she teaches, and my wife is taught in multiple states and other locations. She said, Denry, I can't get these kids to care. Kevin, she can't get them to care. And when she asked them, what do you want to be? They said dealers. They want to strip on a pole. They want to be what they see in their communities. Kevin, in your community, in your majority, I'm speaking generally here, kids want to be what they see the adults become. And so I remember watching a documentary about Chicago years ago. And the guy who was doing life in prison, who was being interviewed, he said to the white reporter, in your communities, you see lawyers, you see doctors going to work, you see construction workers going to work, you see people with their family, their fathers with their kids and stuff. My community, I see pimps, liquor salesmen, drug dealers. These are the people I look up to in my community. So why does education not matter generally to Benton Harbor and Chicago and certain areas? I can make $1,000 a week by dropping something off or shaking something on a stage. Why do I need to go work hard, go studying? I'm not anything anyway. And then when COVID-19 occurred, Kevin, a lot of people teachers were very concerned. And why? Because a lot of our young ladies and young boys were going to homes where school was an escape for them. They're going back to homes now that are impoverished in many cases, homes where they're being molested, they're not loved. And so why put a mask on, Kelly? Why put a mask on? What is there to live for?
Wow.
God is doing me a favor if he takes me out. What is there to live for?
Wow.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying, Kevin? So we have to deal with somebody from another skin color, another race that don't like us. We got our issues in ourselves, and then we don't like ourselves.
Wow.
Speaking in general.
It's wow. It's like a triple threat. Just nothing is going for you guys.
I think triple's an understatement.
Yeah, a triple's an understatement. That's true. But yeah, and thank you for sharing those perspectives and helping me understand that. The question I wanted to ask, with all of this that you're talking about, how is this affecting your families, you personally? Like Kelly, you shared with me, your perspective, especially with your newborn. Congratulations on that. Denry, you were sharing with me too about your children. Share with me just a glimpse of what that's like, having to educate your children and take them through life, honestly, as a black male or female in this society.
When these things keep reoccurring, Kevin, it is not a night that my wife and I are not concerned about, especially our two oldest boys.
How old are they, Denry?
Nate is 14. Nate's about 13, and Dan's is 11, and then the baby, she's 7. And they're getting to that age. I got youth at my church who are starting to drive now. My concern, Kevin, is not them getting into an accident. That is a concern. That is a concern. Getting in a car accident. Not my concern is not necessarily a DUI. That is a concern. My concern, Kevin, for them and my children, is being pulled over by a cop.
Wow.
When I sit down with my kids, we protest. We went to a protest Saturday. My oldest was so angry, Kelly. And I had to sit my son down, Kevin. I had to sit him down and look into his eyes and just help him de-escalate. And all he kept saying is, Dad, why are they not listening? They keep doing the same thing over and over again. They don't care. No matter what we say, whether we do good, they don't care. We do bad, they don't care. It's over, and they're not. And there was the video, the news was recorded also. And he intentionally made sure that they saw his face. And he was saying, when are you guys going to stop? And he's like, Black Lives Matter. I can't breathe. And he kept saying, and for my son has asthma too. That makes on top of, because you guys know. They think Kevin know more than you, Kelly. When we were at Andrews together, I had to rush into emergency room anytime. So if my son gets Kelly any kind of hold by an officer or someone, there's a high probability that he's gone. Being an asthmatic patient myself, when somebody is on top of me, I cannot breathe. And to hear this man crying out, whimpering out, I can't breathe. I know what that feels like. Kevin, when the season, my son and I, we both have, he has more extreme than I. But when the season changes, like right now, it's getting musky in the house. there's times I can't breathe. I literally have to go try to either calm myself for real and take these breaths, real slow breaths, or I gotta go find my inhaler. I don't have it as frequent as he does. Thank God he's doing better. But I know that feeling and could imagine, but I have the hope that I find an inhaler. I have the hope that I'll take my breath and drink some water and I feel better. But could you imagine the person that you think is supposed to be protecting you is kneeling in your neck or holding you around your string like Eric Gardner, and you're saying, I can't breathe. And you don't, like you said, you don't matter to them, so they're not listening to you. I mean, what Kelly, I used to work in juvenile detention for 4 years. Sorry, my allergies, guys, keep itching my nose. I used to work juvenile detention for 4 years, and they taught us methods on how to put people down, how to do holds, okay? What is the difference of you moving your knee to his back, to his spine, right here, rather than he still would have been not able to move. And the thing about it, he wasn't even fighting.
Yeah.
He wasn't fighting. So even if you move your knee, shift your knee down just a little bit, he's saying he can't breathe, and you shift your knee down, he's still pinned, he's not going anywhere. But you put your knee in the man's neck, in his artery, and you have your hands in your pocket, and you're watching, like you just watch him slowly take his last breath. And then the EMT that comes, they don't do no different. Normally, an EMT comes, they check pulse, they resuscitate right there as much as they can. They just roll the man. Oh, now one of the officers felt bad. He holds his neck so he won't get whatever. Rolls him into the thing, move on. Next one, let's move on to the next job. So you asked me, Kevin, my children? My daughter, like Kelly said, my daughter, see, what happens, this doesn't talk about. See, the lowest of, if there is such totem pole, Kelly, you can be honest, the totem pole, there is a totem pole of society, Kevin. There is. All right, let me just break it down to you real quick. And with that evolution theory, which is to support white supremacy, evolution supports white supremacy. I'm gonna say that not because I'm guessing, it's from what I know, what I've read, what I understand, right? The highest of the totem pole is the white male. The white male is the highest. Then Asian, then Hispanic, then dark skins, and blacks are down here. But then after blacks is black women. Black women in 1920, when women got their rights, black women were not considered for that. The womanism movement didn't start until 1960s. And so, yes, our black men are being killed and shot, but our black girls are being turned out into prostitutes by these cops. We haven't read those stories or heard about those stories where black girls are forced into police cars and have to perform oral sex just to get off. Or the cop threatened them with some charge and they have to do something to degrade it. See, we talk about, yes, the black shoe, and that is definitely important, and it is important, but we cannot forget, like Kelly said, black females are being murdered and also being degraded by those who are supposed to protect them. So I got 2 boys and a little girl. Man, I'm in my prayer. I get up early in the morning, my wife and I, we take turns sometimes, and we're praying. We're praying that God place a hedge of protection over our children. Just because I'm a pastor doesn't mean that, I'm immune to this.
Yeah, I'm having to have conversations with my 1-week-old about how beautiful he is, how intelligent he is, how proud I am of him already, how strong of a person he is. And I know he's strong because every time I change his diaper, we be fighting. I've had 2 arguments with him already, and I'm not sure who won those arguments, but they're pending. So he has a strong character. So I keep reminding him that, he has a lot going for himself. I've been telling him that in this world he will come across a lot of people who will love him and cheer for him and support him, and he will also come across a lot of people who hate him just because of the color of his skin. And the other night I found myself telling him that he can achieve whatever he wants to, that whatever goal he sets for himself, he should just go ahead and go for it, regardless of what people think of him or how people perceive him. But the most important thing that I've told him so far, aside from how much he is loved by me and my wife, is that he is created in the image of God, and that even the people who will hate him for the color of his skin are also created in the image of God. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
he ought to always respect people because people are created in the image of God. But if somebody needs to get God. Meaning, if somebody crosses the line and you need to speak up and put them in their place, offend them even sometimes, just to let them know that you're not a floor mat, you're not nobody's stepping stool, you're not anybody's anything. Like, we hungry out here too. So we are docile as a lamb and as a dove, but we got some sharp teeth and we
Mm.
will snatch somebody up. So, I'm having this conversation early with my 1 week old son,
Wow.
just so that as he's growing up, I start to shape and mold a version of an individual, God willing, who is both God fearing, who is walking justly and humbly and empathic towards humankind,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
but like Christ, also not be afraid to flip over a table if he has to,
Mm. Yeah.
or to
Wow.
call somebody out of their name if he has to.
Wow.
Because for as fuzzy and warm our Christian ideals make us think about the gospel and how we ought to treat each other and how we ought to see the world and all of that good stuff, the fact of the matter is we are living in this environment outside of the garden, and it is chaotic
Mm.
and it is
Mm.
dangerous and
Mm.
it is not geared for your protection or my protection. And I know already at 35 years old that there is a possibility, because I wake up black every day, that my son may know my name preceded by a hashtag. I know that that's a possibility.
Wow.
I also know that it's a possibility that as he grows and becomes, and I end up taking Denry's place right now, where he has two teenage sons. I also know that I may end up one day wearing a T-shirt with my son's name as a hashtag on it.
Oh,
I know
oh.
that that's a possibility. So to be able to sit with that with a 1 week old already, you know, you deal with it as you wish. So these are the type of thoughts that are running through my mind when it comes to how am I then going to educate my son so that he is a productive member of society, and to just be able to inherit from his dad that everyone is cool until they show you I don't mess with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we cool, we cool. I see you. I don't care who, what, when, where, or why you are the way you are. That's your problem. You are the image of God. And if I say that I love God and that I believe in God, then I ought to extend even that much to you. So I am trying to teach him that. But if we got to backhand someone, metaphorically speaking, or even literally speaking, then we backhand someone because we are living outside the garden. And as a chaplain, I tell you this, as a friend, I tell you this, as a pastor, I tell you this. I do not subscribe to being disrespected by people for any old reason. One thing that I've noticed so far in this, since this whole thing started with, I'm not even going to say Trayvon because we can't forget that Emmett Till is part of that conversation. We can't forget that Rodney King is part of that conversation. We can't forget that our ancestors from slavery, from the civil rights era are part of this conversation. The reason why this is so amplified now is because of our cell phone cameras and people are and social media, and so we are bombarded with all of this stuff. But check out the footage in Selma, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? If you want to really get a glimpse of just a small glimpse of how things were, watch the movie Roots. You know what I'm saying? Like, watch some of those things. Watch young kids, women, men, young and old, getting hosed down at close proximity with high pressure water just for standing up for what they thought was right to leave theirs. You know, where is this at? I just pulled it up while we were talking. The Declaration of Independence reads like this. Part of it reads like this, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident. We all know this part, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, you guys tell me when this was written. When was this written?
1776? 1776, right?
So I'm kind of hazy. I'm kind of hazy in my history, but I don't think that Black people were considered as human beings in 1770 whatever.
No.
If I remember correctly from my history classes, Black people were considered as property. Just as this bottle of water is my property, my Black body was the property of somebody else. And even the value ascribed to that property was a fraction of what this bottle costs.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about these inalienable rights and that all men are created equal in our context today, let's not get that twisted. We were not included in this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to talk about still to this day. That's what this whole Black Lives versus All Lives Matter issue boils down to. All Lives Matter is a reincarnation of this.
Wow. Wow.
We're not included in that.
Still not.
Denry and I are not included in that. His sons and his daughters are not included in that. My son, my wife, my nephews, my sisters, my cousins, my family, we're not included in that.
And
Kev, maybe you might be included in that. I don't know if there was some Asian present at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I don't know if there were. I know for a fact that there was Black people on this continent the same night that this was being signed and written by the founding fathers of this country. And they weren't looking outside to be like, hey, you know what? Let's get George in here and have him sign his name at the bottom of this document too. Yeah. Let's get Harriet in there and ask her to, put her name at the bottom of this declaration also, because they matter.
Wow.
Kevin, can I ask you something real quick? Kevin, just real quick.
Go ahead.
Have you had to talk with your children yet?
I have. And I shared with Kelly and maybe you a little bit, Denry, just really briefly. The talk that we're having with my daughter, my 5-year-old, is, she she hears things on the news. She hears mommy and daddy saying that's so sad, and so she asks. And so we have had to explain to her there are people that that hated this man. There is something called racism, and it's hate. And she's starting to get the idea. She's seeing things on TV, and after we explained this to her, one of her prayers in the night before we go to bed was, "Dear Jesus, please be with the people that are hated. Um, please stop the hate. Please stop the anger. Please stop this." And it was simple for a 5-year old, but like that's and we're trying to teach her every day, because this is happening in her lifetime, and she is seeing it happen on TV. She is hearing mom and daddy talk about it, and she's involved in it, and we want her to be involved. We don't want her to be complacent and say, "Oh, that's just on TV. That's adult stuff that doesn't affect me," but it does. And so we've taken that time, we've taken those moments to try to train her as little as what little we do know about it and experience it ourselves.
I mean, I appreciate that, but that's not the talk I'm talking about.
What
The
talk are you talking about?
that I'm talking about is the same talk Kelly had with his son, and he's going to constantly have with his son about how to behave when you're being pulled over by a cop.
No, we have not had that conversation, and honestly, it doesn't even register in my mind to even think of having that conversation.
So we have to have so when people say have that talk, normally you're thinking about the birds and the bees and sex, whatever. For us also, another talk that we have to have is talk with our children and our youth and our young people about what kind of mannerism, not just in your car, but anytime you're approached by a police officer. When I was in New York, we just walk it. I can't tell you how many times where two of the major times I remember, guns pulled to me. When Kelly said due process, I'm just walking. I hear sirens. I see cars just pull up on the sidewalk. People jump out, freeze, hands up. Guns pulled at me. And I'm telling you, like, yes, I was like, that time I was like teenager in my 20s. And you want to be like, hard and cool, but when you see guns pulled to you, there is no thing as hard and cool unless you just don't have no kind of cure in the world. And so it was, if it wasn't for my godfather, listen now, because my stepdaddy migrated here and stuff like that, and he has a temper issue. He's the one I gotta pray for. Every time cops pull him over, he gets into an argument. But it's just by grace of God. But my godfather, who works for the police department, and was a chaplain of the police department at that time, a black male, African American, sat me and all the youth down in the church. He was a pastor, and had to talk with us, showed us how we're supposed to act or to pretend to act when we're being pulled over by a cop, when a cop addresses us. Then later on, I had to have more conversation, what to do Kevin, when you're pulled over by the cops, right? Have you ever been pulled over by a cop for speeding?
Yeah.
What's your routine? Just real quick, what's your routine?
Immediately pull out my driver's license, my registration, roll down my window, and I just have it in my hand already.
Okay, where's your hands?
Honestly, one hand's down and one hand's just holding my identification right there.
Okay, Kelly, when you're pulled over by the cop because you speed a lot, you're in Philly. Thank you.
Both hands.
You hear what you said?
I don't have anything.
Kevin, do you hear what you said? You said you get to have one hand down and one hand up. The Philandro, the dude that was in Minnesota,
Philandro Castile.
He was obeying the law, and he told the guy, "I got a gun permit and I have a gun. Let me get my wallet. Let me give it to you." He's taken. And so we're
in the back seat.
We have to teach our children. I have to teach Nathaniel when he starts driving. I have to teach the youth of my church, even though they're not biologically mine, the youth of my church, when you get into a police officer pulls the car over, one, I hope you don't have no tinted window. If you do, roll everything down. They need to see what's going on. There was a case where they just shot into the car because they couldn't see. Roll everything down. That's number one. Second, don't make any sudden moves. Listen to what we have to tell them, Kevin. Don't make any sudden moves. One of the officer, one of the people who were involved in community said, "Listen, put your stuff already on the dashboard, your license, insurance, all of that on the dashboard. Put your hand on the steering, and when you're instructed to, do you see what we have to go through, Kevin?
Yeah.
How demoralizing it is, but for the sake of our life, Kevin."
Wow.
Because all the officer, and I was in another conversation like this but we had an officer there, and he said all they need is a suspicion. They don't need full evidence. They just need some kind of suspicion, some kind of reason to shoot. And they were told, Kevin, listen to what I'm saying to you. They were told, and I've asked a couple of officers about this. When it's white, be polite. Anything else, be aggressive. And so even though I'm speaking to you as a black male, Kevin, because you are not European, do not think for 1 second, just because they are patting you as my Asian brothers and sisters on the back, because in their mind, for a lot, and when I say I'm speaking general, I'm not speaking against white people. I'm talking about racism, those who are racist. They like to use and abuse people. And so they categorize people in different groups. And so those of us who are not aggressive because we're not black, you guys over here and you're watching at us, and say, look at those guys. But they're watching you too. They're watching you too. And so these are the conversations, Kevin, that we have to have with our little ones. I can have one with my daughter. She's 7 years old, want to play with her toys and stuff like that. She needs to know that there's a chance that she could be driving with her friends, going someplace, a cop pull her over, and because she reached for her purse, why should our children have to be raised in a society like that before they're even given a chance, Kevin?
Wow.
Why when I get pulled over by a cop, my wife tenses up, and my wife she checks the kids. Guys, don't make any sudden move. This is what we're telling our children. I've been pulled over by cops. Speeding, you don't realize whatever the case may be, or your flight's out, and the cop is there, and I have to be extra gravy nice, Kelly. It is extra. Hey, officer, how are you doing today?
Listen, you start sounding like Stephen A. Smith, using all the big words.
All the big words. And you have to tell them everything you're doing. I'm going into my left pocket to get my wallet. It's right here. This is how we got to live, Kevin. This is not a cartoon. It's not a joke. Take any random black person and put them on there. You don't even need to know them. Take them and ask them, what do you have to do when a cop pulls you over? Or even you're walking and you're being frisked, which is against your constitutional rights. I'm sorry to take up your time, but I just want you to understand, Kevin, that this is not, we're not making this up. This has become our norm. It's part of our DNA now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for the grace and the mercy of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, if we didn't know him, if I didn't know, my family didn't know God, man, shoot, you don't understand. You don't understand where we would be right now.
Wow. It's honestly insane for me to wrap my head around that, because you already see, just from my simple answer to you guys, my mind is not even in the same realm as that, because it's not something that I grew up with. It's not something that I've been ingrained in. It's almost like my prejudice has been ignorant for such a long time. And man. So we'll definitely get more into that. I want to transition a little bit more now. Both of you are ministers, chaplain, pastors, right? Ministers of God. And sadly enough to say, many Christians, many Adventists tend to perceive themselves as not prejudiced or racist. But I'm going to ask you, have there been moments within the Seventh-day Adventist Church that you have encountered prejudice, racism, and discrimination?
I'm gonna take the fifth because it might incriminate me.
I will take your fifth and speak from my experience, but I know you can nod your head, bro. So if anything I say you can relate to, just give it a quick nod. Don't even let the camera see you nod. Just put one of these. Yeah. I was, this is something that you said earlier, Denry. This is not just a North American problem. This is a problem across any continent, any country. I did my study abroad in undergrad. I was in Florence, Italy for 6 months. Learned Italian when I was in undergrad. So at that time, I spoke Italian fluently. I still understand Italian fluently. I just haven't spoken it in years, but I can read it. I can understand it. And with some practice, you give me like a month or so of nothing but Italian conversation, and I'll be speaking Italian in no time again.
Wow.
So I was really immersed into that language, into the culture, into the programming. So I spent 6 months in Florence, Italy. I get to Florence, and I'm looking for SDA church, and the nearest SDA Italian-speaking church to where I was living was about 45-minute to an hour walk from my apartment. It's Florence. Nobody catches the bus or anything like that. Everybody has a little moped or a little car, whatever the case is, and everything is relatively close. So, and I like to walk anyway. I took the walk. I get there, and before I had emailed the pastor of the church to let the pastor know, hey, I'm a foreign student. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm here for 6 months, and I will be coming to your church, and just want to meet you to introduce myself since I'll be here, and I'll be coming to the church, so far and so forth. Great. I get to the church, and no one says a word to me. Nobody. I'm talking about fellow Seventh-day Adventist believers, not knowing whether or not I was SDA, which shouldn't matter. Because someone walks into the house where you worship, if you're really worshiping, you would welcome that person. I'll put it to you this way: if you're really worshiping the God whom you say you're worshiping, you would notice that person.
Wow.
Name me a moment in Scripture where Jesus did not notice the outcast. Sit there for a little bit. So I walk in, and I find a bench where I could sit. I walked in during Sabbath school. There weren't that many people. It was comforting to know that people don't show up to Sabbath school not only in America, but they also don't show up to Sabbath school in Italy, apparently. So I find a bench, I sit there, and it's not until we were deep into service did I realize nobody else sat on the bench with me. I was the only person sitting on that bench. And towards almost the end of service, someone came in and sat on the extreme end of the bench. Cool, no problem. After church, I identify who the pastor is. I walk up to the pastor. I introduce myself to him. Hey, pastor, I'm the one who, this is all happening in Italian because your boy speaks fluent Italian. So I'm not speaking to him, asking for an interpreter or translator. I'm holding my own. Hey, Pastor, I'm the one who emailed you, uh, telling you that I'm from out of state or out of the country and so far and so forth. And he goes, oh, pleasure to meet you. And he ushers me to the first elder. And he says, the first elder will, take care of you. And my man is gone with the wind. Never see him again. The first elder, by the look on his face, seemed like the pastor just dropped me on him. And first elder's looking around like, the heck am I supposed to do with this guy? Mm. Thankfully, there was a guy from Spain and a lady from Ecuador. And this black guy from France. And they all spoke English and they all also spoke Italian. Wow. And of course, the lady from Ecuador, she speaks Spanish. So I was able to communicate with them in whatever language they wanted to talk in. And because they were themselves not Italian, they came to me, they introduced themselves to me, and they said, hey, what are you doing next Saturday? In my head, I'm thinking, I ain't coming back here. I'll tell you that much. Mm. But they were like, there is a Brazilian church downstairs that meets downstairs, and they're more welcoming than the church up here.
Wow.
So you should come next Saturday, check out the Brazilian church. Bet. Went the following Saturday, went to the Brazilian church. The moment I walked in, I was embraced. And I said to myself, but hold on, man. What kind of message are we preaching then? You know, what kind of message are we really preaching? And I'm talking exclusively about our Seventh-day Adventist culture. What the heck are we talking about? Mm. All the stuff that we preach, all the doctrines that we obsess over, all of the little particularities of things that we just like, if you don't square with me on this particular issue, well, we'll agree to disagree, or you're not a purist Adventist or whatever, from that spectrum to the other spectrum of, more liberal spectrum, or whichever spectrum you fall in. What the heck are we talking about if we can't even recognize the humanity of somebody else? Mm-hmm. Period. So you want to tell me that God created me and you in God's image when it's only convenient for you? Mercy. But when the black dude walks in, or if we want to extend this conversation a little bit more broadly, when the homosexual guy comes in, or the homosexual chick comes in, or when the tatted up dude comes in, or the tatted up chick comes in, or when the chick comes in and she's wearing a bra for a shirt and panties for a skirt, you can't recognize the image of God in that. Mm. But you want to sit here and you want to talk about how great is our God and how he has redeemed, and for God so loved the world and no greater love has a man than this, and the prophecy and the three angels message. And give me a break, man. Give me a break. Wow. Give me a break.
I'm looking. Jesus said a couple of times, Kevin, he said two things. They asked him about the commandments. He says, broken up in two parts. Love God with all your heart. And then he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And one of them, I think it's Matthew 5:43. There's a couple of times he said it. He does say love your neighbor as yourself. And then he says, you were told to love your neighbor and hate your enemies.
Mm.
Like Kelly, being Black and Adventist, I've always wondered what category are we in, because none of those categories apply to us.
Wow.
That's a good point.
Being serious here. And I preach this at my church too, not just because of the skin color thing, but I just a couple of days ago, we had a discussion similar to this, and predominant people were Caucasian and they were from Adventist church. And I even asked them this question that I'm asking your viewers: why now? But why do you care now? And I'm not in a facetious, not in a spiteful way. But why now? When he said, love your neighbor as yourself, that's one. Then he said, you are told to hate your enemies, but I'm telling you, love your enemies, treat them also with kindness, do good to them. So I've always been wrestling for a while, Kelly. I've been wrestling for years now when I deal with white Adventists, or white Christians in general, evangelicals or whatever, and I'm treated in need of those categories. There was only 2 categories Jesus gave. Well, maybe 3. God, but we're not God, so, but he said love, but if we were, said love the Lord thy God with all your heart, so that's not us. We're not. Then he said love your neighbor, then he said love your enemy. So what category is Kelly and I in, and all the dark-skinned people?
Wow.
Did they recreate another book in the Bible that says, yeah, love the Lord, love your neighbor, even love your enemies, but don't like them people. Don't even like those people over there. And you be all right with Jesus. He's going to give you a thumbs up.
Wow.
This is the hypocrisy portion of our church. And I even seen it in, when people like, see, this is why I'm not part of the Adventist church, whatever. Read your Bible. That's why Paul had to check Peter, who spent 3.5 years with Jesus. So that's why I said it's a human thing. It's this prejudice, this discrimination, this finding a reason to separate myself from somebody else. But for us, it's because of our skin color. So when you ask that question, Kevin, you don't have enough bandwidth for me to share the amount of times. Me as a Black man, even before I open my mouth and they find out, and then when people were like, especially when I was in the seminary, it was like, man, the reason why you got through was because they figured that your accent, that you're not African American. And I'm like, what? So you hear that. But from episode after episode, told that we worship God wrong, that when we worship God with passion, when we worship God with emotion, that is wrong. But then when I read the Bible, and the Bible tells me, enter into his house with thanksgiving, come into his courts with praise, let everything that have breath praise the Lord. Our system, because it's Caucasians dominating the system, just gonna be honest, it is what it is. There's a prejudice, underlying prejudice. So it affects, okay, the other day, the GC president said that he wants to discuss worship. Because he don't like the way we have in worship. We celebrate too much. We have too much fun in worship. This was a few years ago. Why? Why are you telling me now how to worship God, how to worship my God? I can read the Bible for myself. Who are you to come tell me how to worship God? Why is that? Because people get too happy. They're clapping, they're shouting what the Bible says to do. So you don't want me to be obedient to the word of God. You want me to be obedient to your European system, oppression system, of religious oppression. And so, Kevin, you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the time for me to give you the examples over and over, but I'm just putting it in a nutshell for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
When I went to Andrews, because when I was driving Kelly, I drove from Florida. I was living in Florida then. We had just moved from Atlanta. I dropped my wife off in Florida. She got a job. I said, babe, okay, she's gonna work while I work my way through, get through school, first year at least. So she was with her mom. So I drove 20 something miles up. And through that conversation, I had a conversation with God. I said, God, they're gonna be white people there. And you know my history of white folks. You know, I have my paranoia at times. There have been some of them, very few of them, handful of them, that's really treated me with good respect. I get there, I met a couple of them, having a great time. And then one of the saddest moments of my experience was when I was cornered by some people different shade than me and told to be quiet because I was speaking against Black issues and I was making jokes that everybody else was. And that's once again, Kelly, was when I realized, oh yeah, oh yeah, all this time I thought I was in a group. I thought people loved me for who I am, but oh yeah, because of this, Kelly. So Kevin, we're always reminded that, you know, with the Black pastors get invited to big North American division functions or whatever, even European functions, GC, to entertain the crowd. Did you know that, Kevin? Mm. Yeah, we're invited because we want somebody to entertain the crowd, to get the crowd on their feet, to get people emotionally charged. But when you want an intellectual, stay European. Mm. Stay European or somebody like Shade from Brazil, Asian, whatever the case may be. But no, we're not, even though we have pastors with doctorates upon doctorates, pastors who've written books, who are scholars. No, don't invite them. Invite them when we want people to sing, you know, like the parade, just little monkey dance for us, get people excited. But when they want to enter a real deep intellectual conversation, don't invite the Blacks. Invite the lighter shades.
Wow. How does that affect your faith then? Like, you're talking about a prejudice within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at so many of us Christians / Adventists that have been ignorant, that have been prejudiced, and that have really just downplayed this issue that is so prominent and destructive. How does your faith then deal with that? Because you're taught, here's the faith. How does your faith deal with that? Because you're being categorized that you're not in any of those categories that Jesus talks about, right? And your worship style is too celebratory, and your preaching style is just for entertainment. How do you guys take that and then go back out and minister to people?
And I'm not being cliches. I'm telling you from my personal, Kelly will speak for himself, me personally, what is keeping me is Jesus Christ. What I suffered through, what I see my people suffer through, he has suffered through also. And like what I said to you, the same issues we have now, they had it in the biblical days, even in front of Jesus. Like I said, Paul had to check Peter. Paul had to check Peter. Peter lived amongst Jesus, smelled Jesus' breath. If Jesus farted, Peter knows what Jesus' fart smells like. He was that intimate with Jesus, but Paul had to check him post-ascension, post Pentecost, even when the Holy Spirit was in them. And the man was still prejudiced. And Paul had to what are you doing? So when I read Bible, that's what I'm saying. My faith is in the Word of God, not in my church. I am part of the church, but the church is full of imperfect people. The church is perfect because Jesus made it perfect, but the people are imperfect. Because Jesus says, on this rock, and the gates of hell would not prevail. So the church that the invisible church, now that's what I'm saying, The invisible church, Kelly, you know I'm going. The invisible church that the Holy Spirit sees, that Jesus sees, is perfect. But the systems from Adam till even now, why should I think that, I mean, I'm being facetious, but why should I think we should be better than Adam and Eve, than Adam, Abraham and Lot? And Abraham and Lot, they were relatives fighting over property. Why should we be better than them? And we're like at the tail end of Jesus coming. Mm. You see what I'm saying, Kelly? So for me, Kevin, it's Jesus Christ. Mm. Listen, I'm proud to be black because of Jesus Christ. There's no other God, Confucius, Buddha, you named Haile Selassie, none of them have gone through anything close to what I've gone through than Jesus Christ. Here we go. You go through it. They say any good thing could come out of Nazareth. I know what that means. Any good thing could come out of Harlem. Okay, all right, got that. His mother was, hold on, this was kind of suspicious. Is Joseph really his father? Not knowing where his father is. Hey, cha-ching, click again. Betrayed by his brothers, cha-ching, here we go again. So it's added up for me, brother. Every time I look up on Jesus.
I got one more for you. Go
ahead.
Dead at 33.
Mercy. Wow.
And basically people watched. They watched him and mocked him. He's right. Mocked him.
He must have done something wrong.
And what did he do? What did he do? All he did was do
something wrong.
And they didn't do due process. They cheated. Remember?
Wow.
They snuck and they did a secret Sanhedrin council, which was against their own law. So there was no due process. So Kevin, you asked me, why am I still part of this church? I mean, because I'm imperfect, just like the church. I got my isms too. Don't think sometime when I see somebody, I don't have my thoughts. I have to check myself too. Some people are just vocal about it. Some people have not converted completely. So I'm part of this faith because of Jesus' grace. When I look upon Jesus, Kevin and Kelly, I identify. I know that Black Lives Matter because his life didn't matter to them. Kelly, you got to preach that, Kelly. His life didn't matter to them.
That's all you, man. That's all you.
His life did not matter to them. Look at this track record, all the things he did. None good. But that was not what they had a prejudice against him from the day he was born. The people from out of state came, out of the country. The wise men came, and nobody in Jerusalem went to his birth. They knew, just like the Adventist church, they knew where he's supposed to be born. They knew better, but they didn't do it. So why should I expect? Now, as for me, like Joseph said, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So I'm going to treat people right. I went to the seminary, and people weren't talking to me. White people were not talking to me. I stood there, and I was polite, but I want to, just like Kelly said, I reinforce that I exist. So you're going to treat me with respect. So I didn't allow you to disrespect me. When you would be what? I would say, good day, how are you today? Treat them with love. But it was a firm love. And after a while, people fell in love with me. When I was leaving, that white people were all over me. I still, when I go to the seminary, they still cool with me. They're wonderful people. Of course, you got a few, of course. But even if they had it, because what it says, teach the truth and love, what is that? Overcome with what? Love? Something like that. Overcome. Don't let evil overcome you, but overcome evil with good. So that was my objective. When I saw racism coming to me, I said, listen, I could be the angry black man. I could be ready like, yo, I'm going to listen. I'm going to cuss everybody out. But I said, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to treat people with love. I'm going to really try to my best as God's help and even when I'm mad at them, My professors used to say some stuff in class, insinuate some things. I'm going to do it.
Wow. Wow.
And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a flawless plan. Was there times I wanted to say something, and there were times I did say stuff.
Mm.
But I said I'm gonna treat them with love,
Mm-hmm.
but not that little washy love. No, I'm somebody. I exist, and just like the person before me who was light skinned that you gave proper treatment to, I expect the same treatment. And by the way, how are your children doing? Glad to see that you're doing well too. Happy Sabbath, by the way. Love you.
Mm.
So it's Jesus for me. I don't know about Kelly. He's got that sundial behind his back of his head. I don't know. I don't know about him.
Well, you see that too, right? It looks like a
Yeah, it does look like you have
old
a
school
sundial.
painting.
A halo, does he have a halo? Somebody's gonna be like, see, look, see, there we go.
Heathen. That's why I'm a chaplain. I don't know. I could I could get all like theological and do all that stuff. But Kev, what's true for me is what's true for you too, right?
Mm.
You didn't get a say when God didn't come to a pre-existent Kevin and say, "Do you want to be Filipino?"
Yeah.
If he did, good on you, and you chose a wonderful race. But you were born into the family and into the race that you were born into.
Mm-hmm.
I was born into the family and race that I was born into. And so if with my mouth I can say that God is all knowing and all of that stuff, then I have to be understanding that the Lord knows why he made me a black man, just like he knows why he made you a Filipino man. He knows why he made me a black man and not a black woman, just like you get the point. So because I am confident in my identity and who I am and what I am, because I'm confident in the God who made me as I am, because of my understanding of, just from my own theological thinking and existential thinking and all of that stuff. And just because I really don't care what people think about me, I'm able to carry out my faith as if nothing was happening.
Wow.
I'm not going to lose sleep over someone not welcoming me into their church.
Mm.
I mean, cool. And this is not Kelly taking the high road. This is not Kelly taking the dismissive road either. As genuinely as that person may not care about me because of the color of my skin, I also genuinely don't care about that person not caring about me because of the color of my skin. It's cool. If that's what you want to do, then do you. What I'm not going to do, and I've said this before, is I won't disrespect your personhood. I'm not going to do that. I try my very best to acknowledge people for people. So when it comes to how all of this, present and past, affects my faith, I love the Lord with all my heart. I try to serve him as sincerely as I possibly can. and I try to call other people into action as God has called me into action. And the one thing that I keep coming back to is this. 1 John 4:20. If someone says, I love God, but hates a fellow believer, that person is a big fat liar.
Wow.
For if we don't love people that we can see, how in God's name can we say we love God whom we've never seen?
Mm. Wow.
It's just that simple for me. For me and for others, this is the measuring stick.
Mm.
So you could be the greatest theologian. You could be the greatest preacher. You could be the Dwight Nelson of Adventism until, you understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
But if you see the plight of not just your fellow believers, but the plight of your fellow, you're going to make me preach up in this piece, bro.
Preach it.
Lord, what must I do to be saved? Well, what does the commandment say? Well, the commandments say that I ought to love the Lord God with all my heart, soul, and mind, and to love my neighbor as myself. Cool. So do that, and you will be okay. But Lord, who is my neighbor? Funny you should ask. A man was traveling on the road, and thieves came down and beat him up.
Yeah.
The pastor came, walked by, seen him, he kept it moving.
Yeah.
The deacon came, the elder came, walked by, seen him, kept it moving. Now, whatever the context is, insert whatever minority or outcast you want to in this parable.
Yeah.
My context, the black guy came, he saw him, he was like, oh shoot, this man is hurt. So picked him up, put him in the whip, took him to the nearest urgent care, and he said to the check-in nurse, hey, put this on my tab, and I'll come back and check in on him in a couple of days, and whatever else I need to pay, I got you.
Yep.
So I ask you, Adventist person who claims all lives matter, who's the neighbor?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess it was the one who took care of him. Cool. Go and do likewise.
Wow.
So what point is it to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind, but you're going to step over, you're going to deliberately choose to ignore the plight of your fellow brothers and sisters?
Wow. That is eye-opening and powerful, and it is something that we, and when I say we, myself and all of my non-black brothers and sisters that are listening needed to hear. And it is a call to us that we need to step up. We really do. You know what? And I want to again thank you guys for sharing your story, for being honest and open and truthful with me. At the same time, it is 12 midnight for you guys, so I want to just pose this last question, and it's kind of a like two sides to it, and just share with me how you feel on it. What is it that you want for people like myself that are not in the black community? what is it that you like? What is it like? Whether it's the one thing that you want us to know, or what is the one thing you want us to do, you know? And Kelly, in that last portion that you talked about, you really just stated it. Do something. But, and I don't mean to sound ignorant, but I am. I, I'm so almost at a loss sometimes to know what to do, where to go. Like, where do I even start? Like, what is it that I have to do to be able to really just like speak up? And is it is God help me, help us, guide us in that, if you don't mind.
So take a step back. I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay.
But here's something that I want you and whoever else is tuning into this conversation to keep in mind. The fact that you're able to ask me that question indicates that you have the choice to either do something about it or not do something about it.
Hmm.
I don't have that choice.
Wow.
That, my friend, is called privilege.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then you can take it from there.
Wow.
Kelly said the parable. I want to go back to the parable. And when we read the Bible and we say we open with open mind with the Holy Spirit, and we, at the same time, it would be a lie to yourself and say you're not going to read the Bible in your own language or your own, from what you see has gone in your life, from your experience, whether nurture or nature, um, the same parable. And this is hopefully to answer your question, Kevin. There are going to be people watching this video, and I suggest to you, you might want to break it up into parts. Our attention span nowadays is very short. It's 2 hours. There are going to be some that are attentive and watch for the whole 2 hour and change, taking notes, and really want to change their life. They've overlooked it. They didn't realize, for whatever reason. And like I said, we are not casting any stones here. Trust me, for people who know what it feels like to be falsely accused or just accused because of our skin color, we're not accusing nobody. Okay? There are some wonderful Caucasian people, white people, amazing, most genuine, loving people. I've met some even at Andrews. There were some that just welcome me in. Still keep in contact with them today. You see what I'm saying? So it's not that. Like I said, it's a human. It's a sin issue. Let me say what it is, Kelly. What we mentioned before. It's a sin issue. It's really a sin issue. The first thing Adam and Eve did when they ate the fruit, they separated themselves from God. Then they separated themselves from each other. Next chapter, Cain kills his own brother. So when you ask that question, what should we do? Dude, Cain killed his own brother. Over offering. And so the prodigals, not prodigal, the neighbor story, the first one, he passes by. He didn't even stop. He didn't stop his breath. He went by his religious service. He was a priest, and he went straight, didn't even look, didn't care. It doesn't matter. It was more important for him not to desecrate himself. He didn't want to go to his purification process, all of that. He was more concerned about pleasing God or going, pleasing man, whatever. The second one, though, if you notice the story in different gospel accounts, he walked by, but he'd stopped and he looked, and then he kept going. So the first one didn't even care at all. It could have been a raccoon that died. It didn't matter. There was nothing to him. The second one was a little bit. He had the concern, but he was more concerned about his well-being, his life, whatever. Think about it. He's out in the wilderness, and this guy could be a robber. It could have been a scam. It could have been a scam. There's a chance that the others are looking behind a rock. He stopped, whatever. So there's a concern for a quick second. but he had to go about his religious duties.
Yeah.
So number two, the second one, he checked on him, but he was kind of indifferent still. There was a concern, but he was indifferent. Now the last one, he was willing to risk his own life, knowing the chance that this could have been a scam. He got out of his comfort zone. He took of his own resources. These are the answers that I'm giving to you. Took of his own resources to take care of the man. His oil, his wine, this thing that he had. I'm sure he gave him food, his clothes. He put him on his horse, so he put him into his luxury, his horse, donkey, whatever it was carrying. Then he took him to an inn. He got him care. Then he paid the innkeeper. He went above and beyond. Then he told the innkeeper, whatever else needs to happen when I come back, I'll pay for it. So beyond, above and beyond. So beyond, above and beyond. Am I asking you to do that? No, I'm not asking you to do that. But Jesus is asking each one of us to do that for each other. Remember, the Samaritans and the Jews hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
They were like the blacks and the whites. They hated each other. They were the same faith. Same faith. So when you say about when you asked me earlier about why am I in the church, what am I going to do? You had the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The same faith.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The woman at the well said, hey, our father told us that the Messiah is coming. Same faith.
Yeah.
Are you better than Jared, our father Jacob? So, same faith.
Mm.
But they were divided and they hated each other. They hated each other.
Yeah.
Off of long lineage, 2,000 years prior, 3,000 years prior. Had nothing to do with the current people, 3,000 years prior. We're talking about 500 years for us. Yeah. 400 years of slavery, and then the 100 and something we had now. Mm. These people, 3,000 years almost of hatred since Solomon. Mm. And so it's not me asking you. We're not looking for a charity or and don't think that I'm diminishing what you're saying, because I know you, Kevin. I know you from at Andrews. You're one of the most sincere people. You would come check on me just out of nowhere when we had another situation. You picked up your phone and you called me. Hey, how are you doing, brother? Those are the things that keep me going. Those are the things that keep us in the faith, that keep us trusting when somebody just picks up the phone. And even though it's not them, but you know that they're hurting because of something that occurred. So if it's a cancer patient who died of breast cancer, I know that your mom died of breast cancer. How are you doing? You know, just that compassion. Jesus said that compassion. Like what, charity or general donation, none of that. So it's not what I'm asking you to do, but what is God asking you? What is Jesus asking you to do? Matthew 25, 24, he talks about he's coming, the signs of his coming. 24, he tells us what to do in preparation for his coming. And the last one is the least of these. So once again, Kevin, I go back to the category. So, of course, we're not God. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart. And he said, love your neighbor. I don't feel love there, so I guess I'm not your neighbor. So he said, love your enemies and do good to them. Pray for them, bless them. But I don't feel the love, so I'm not your enemy. Then Matthew 25, he says, the least of these. And when you do for the least, you do for me. But I don't feel even for the least. So what category are we in? When you see people take care of their animals way better than human beings, come on. Yeah. Come on, that's bestiality in its fullest. You do everything for your animal, but you wouldn't suffer for me. You wouldn't cry for me. You wouldn't get out of your comfort zone for me. So it's not a charity thing. All we asking those who are listening, and I'm speaking specifically for the person who started listening the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 5, or didn't even listen, said, you know what, I don't want to be part of it. I'm speaking to you. Jesus said the least. What category you put us? And don't do it for me. Do it for Jesus. What is he asking you to do?
Mm-hmm.
You can lie to me, but what is Jesus asking you to do?
Mm. Wow. Denry, thank you so much for sharing your story, your perspective, the honest opinions, and reality of your life with us, with me. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate you, brother. I love you, man.
You too,
I'm
man.
honored. I am honored to be your friend in this, and sadly enough, catch up in these times. I wish I would catch up more, and that's on me.
Yeah,
And
I'll go for it, man.
and
It's a
thank you, yeah, and thank you for honestly calling me and other Christians out on what is basically needed is compassion, you know, and we need to stop really questioning ourselves on what we should be doing, and really just start at the basic level of how can we be more compassionate, and that should lead us
yeah.
to what we need to do, what we need to do for ourselves. So again, Denry, thank you. To those that are watching, um, Pastor Kelly had to leave to relieve his wife to help, with their 1 week old. So,
Good
Father
man.
God, I just,
Yeah,
yeah, just, bless them and pray with them. Before we close, do you mind if we just close it out with a word of prayer?
yeah. Yes.
God, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to hear this amazing story that Denry and that Kelly had to share with us, the struggles, Lord, that they go through. Of course, all life matters, but Lord, the Black lives are the ones that are being discriminated, that have to daily, every single day, have to fight and just push through prejudice and discrimination that is constant around them, Father God. And so many of us don't understand that, don't get that. But I pray that we do. I pray that those that are listening, those that have watched this, Lord, those that have been blessed by this will take action in even on the basic level of having compassion for our brothers and sisters that have been disenfranchised, disrespected, disregarded, and just really just hated. And that we start doing things, Father God, to the least of these. Or they are your children. They are in your image. All of us are. And so help us to love each other as you have loved us. We pray all these things, God, in your name. Amen.